What's going on? Welcome to the 5-Minute Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Colton Olson, and on this podcast, we spend about 5 minutes, I say about 5, give or take a couple sometimes, breaking down and teaching you to apply psychological concepts that world-class athletes, CEOs, coaches, and elite military units use to take their performance to the next level. The key word here is apply. I don't want you to come here and just get a bunch of information and not know how to use it. I want you to leave here every day feeling like you have something in your hands that you can use right away to improve your life. Let's get to it. On today's episode of 5-Minute Mindset, we're going to be discussing one of the best pieces of advice I've ever received. I don't typically like to classify things as life-changing. I think that's a big label to put on something, and oftentimes you see those clickbaity titles or whatever where people say, oh, this is life-changing, this will change who you are forever, and then it's not really anything cool. So I don't really like to label things as life-changing, but I really do believe when taken seriously, this piece of advice, the piece of advice that I received and I'm going to share with you, can absolutely be life-changing. So when I was in graduate school, I did some performance psychology work with the football team at the university, and in the process, I became pretty close with one of the coaches who was really interested in the mental side of the game. And during one of our many awesome conversations, he shared a really cool piece of advice with me that his brother had recently shared with him, and then he'd been sharing it with the players, and he felt it was really impactful with the guys. So we're talking, and he tells me that a lot of these athletes, and these are Division I football players, these are high-level athletes, a lot of young athletes, like those football players, like to pick and choose when they do things with intensity, when they do things with intent, and they essentially want to pick and choose when to do things the right way. And this isn't abnormal for young athletes, even young athletes at really, really high levels. Like I said, this is Division I football, and I see it with young professional baseball players as well. When young athletes are coming up, they think that some reps matter more than others, some drills matter more than others, and that they really just need to turn it on when it's competition time or when the lights come on. You know, what they don't understand is that when you try to pick and choose like that, when you do pick and choose, all you're doing is cutting corners. It's generally just an excuse not to work hard, and it's actually a direct reflection of how you'll act when you face difficulties, which is going to be a lot of the time. When you're in any sort of, I would say even moderate level competition, when competition's for real, you're going to face challenges. It's going to be tough. So when you cut corners, you're showing me how you're going to act when it's game time. And what he told his players to combat this was, how you do one thing is how you do all things. I'm going to say that again. That's the piece of advice. How you do one thing is how you do all things. And this sounds really simple, but let's break it down and get to the nitty-gritty of this and help all of us understand why it's so impactful. So as an athlete, a coach, a boss, or whatever role you're in, it's most likely that you're asked to take on a number of responsibilities every day. And these tasks, these are the little kind of monotonous, boring tasks that you have to do all the time. They're designed to get you ready to perform at your best when it matters most. But for some reason, when we're given these little tasks, when we're put in these scenarios, we don't treat them that way. We see the little tasks like workouts, film sessions, meetings, practices as things we just have to get through instead of the building blocks that they actually are, because they are the building blocks for our performance. That's why they should be taken seriously. As a result, we take it easy. We don't approach these tasks like we approach games or things that we think matter most. We skip or half-ass reps in the gym. We're on our phones during film. We're not engaged during meetings. And then we try to make up for that by attempting to be different when our best is demanded, but we aren't. All the time I hear people talk about that. Well, I don't need to do that during practice. I'll just turn it on when it's game time. I don't need to play. I don't need to be a team player right now. I'll do that when I get to the higher levels. If you're trying to act one way during practice, during workouts, during meetings, whatever, and then think you can completely flip the switch and make a 180 and be different in game time, you're making a huge mistake. You cannot do that. If you half-ass it in the gym, you'll do the same when you're tired in the fourth quarter. If you're daydreaming during meetings, you'll lose focus during a big moment late in the game, right? How you act in these small, basic settings is how you're going to act when things matter most. It's a direct reflection of you. Also, whether we like it or not, people judge us in our lives. And as young athletes, as professionals, as students, the people that judge you most are also the people that are responsible for some portion of your future, right? If you're working a job, it's likely that you want to get promoted and you have to impress your boss. Your boss is going to judge your performance and determine whether or not you should get that promotion. If you're an athlete, you're trying to get a starting spot, your head coach or your position coach is judging your performance and determining whether or not you should get a starting spot. You're trying to get a college scholarship, college coaches are doing the same thing. You're trying to get drafted, scouts are doing the same thing. And these people that are decision makers, that play a role in our future, they may only ever see us do one thing. We don't think about this that often. These people may only ever see you for 10 seconds. They might see you do one thing. Your head coach might walk past the weight room one day, see you in the squat rack, and see you half-ass a couple reps. Or you might see you give up on the last rep. You just don't dig deep, you don't finish it, right? And as a result of that, he's going to look in there and go, he's half-assing it, that's a lazy guy. Can't start a lazy guy. Same thing at work. You might be in a meeting, you might be in a 90-minute meeting, and your boss walks by the conference room and sees you daydreaming, looking around on your phone. He might only see you for 10 seconds, and he's going to go, that guy's not focused, he's not engaged, he can't even lock in for a meeting, how can I give him a promotion? People are going to label you, and they may only ever see you do one thing, so that's even more of a reason to take this seriously and make an effort to do one thing like you want to do all things. Do one small thing like you want to do the biggest thing. So the application for this one is fairly straightforward. You just need to hold yourself accountable in the moments where it feels like you don't have to. When you're tired during a workout and you want to do 9 reps in the squat rack instead of 10, you're thinking it's not a big deal. It's just one less rep. Hold yourself accountable. Remind yourself that by cutting that corner, by cutting your set short by 1 rep, you're allowing yourself to be lazy and to be a quitter. And that by doing that, you're setting the stage to be lazy and to quit in a big moment during competition later. So don't cut corners when nobody's watching if you don't want to cut corners when everybody's watching, right? It's a mindset shift, and it takes practice. This is something you're going to have to make an effort to do every moment of every day. It might take you writing this down, keeping it somewhere you can see, or putting a reminder in your phone that says, how you do one thing is how you do all things. Keep that as a banner up there. And every time you look down, you want to cut a corner, go, hey, how I do this is how I do everything. How I act here is how I act when the lights are on. So do everything like you want to do the most important thing. That's all we got for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe, leave a review. Find me on Twitter at ColtO45. That's COLT_O45. And I'll see you back here next time on 5 Minute Mindset.